Most ardent film fan could be forgiven for missing out on a few of the better offerings that flew under the radar. Here's a look back at some of the best movies released in 2016 that you haven't seen. Patterson. Before breaking big as Kylo Ren in Star Wars The Force Awakens, Adam Driver got his start in indie films. Despite his box office success, Driver hasn't forgotten his roots. He put in an acclaimed effort in this Jim Jarmusch drama, which focuses on a bus driver and his wife as they navigate the interesting simplicity of their daily lives. It shows the contrast of how each life is different, while simultaneously reminding us how they can weave together through relationships. Critics have praised the small scale of the film and how it relishes in simple, everyday moments. Midnight Special. If you couldn't get enough Adam Driver in your life, here's some more. Midnight Special is the story of a father racing against time to protect his son from outside forces bent on taking advantage of his seemingly superhuman abilities. It's far from the biggest box office draw of the year, but for anyone who's ever felt the weight of being a parent, Midnight Special proved director Jeff Nichols could graduate from the indie ranks to the studio system without losing a single step. Hell or High Water. If you only know Chris Pine from Star Trek, Hell or High Water serves as a reminder of just how much range the young version of Kirk actually has when given a meatier role. This modern Western drama focuses on a pair of bank robbers being tracked by a Texas Ranger, played by the dude himself, Jeff Bridges. Touted by critics as one of the best films of the year, Hell or High Water rises on the strength of an excellent cast, subverts all the old genre cliches, and packs an emotional sting in its closing act. Train to Busan. You've heard of Snakes on a Plane.
I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
But how about zombies on a train? This South Korean zombie flick from Yoon Sang-ho takes that pitch and runs with it, creating a white-knuckle thriller and political allegory tied up in one exceptionally terrifying package. Much like George Romero used the undead as a symbol for consumerism a few decades ago, Sang-ho tackles some social commentary of his own. Critics have praised Train to Busan for its simple setup and deft execution, and it was so good Hollywood is cooking up a US remake right now. And if you like your horror a little more demon-y, The Witch. It's easy to find a horror movie offering up a few jump scares or some slasher gore, but it's trickier to find one with enough faith in its audience to take things slow or get a little weird. That's what genre fans got with The Witch, a movie that announces writer-director Robert Eggers as a filmmaker worth watching. The story follows a path through a spooky thicket of woods in 17th century New England, which should be more or less familiar to anyone who's ever indulged in period horror. But it's Eggers' execution that makes The Witch so creepily compelling, and his flair for imagery will leave it lingering in your mind for days. Moonlight. This one has landed on just about every best of list out there, and for good reason. Director Barry Jenkins has assembled a fantastic cast to tell the story of one man's journey through life as he discovers himself, from childhood all the way through adulthood. It's ambitious and intimate, tracing a tale of sexual discovery and race unlike virtually anything else at the box office. The cast does an amazing job of bringing an unforgettable story to life. Elstree 1976. If you're a fan of the original Star Wars trilogy, this is an absolute must-see. Elstree 1976 is a deep dive into the underbelly of a galaxy far, far away. Instead of telling the stories that have all been told 1,000 times, this semi-documentary tracks the actors in those alien suits, and some folks who saw their entire appearances end up on the cutting room floor. They might have taken on the tiniest of roles, but this franchise continues to affect their lives decades later. Except for Jack Porkins. That guy's long gone. The Invitation. A slow-burning mystery thriller that doubles as an appealingly nasty dig into the emotional fallout from a tragic divorce, The Invitation has Jennifer's Body director Karin Kusama making a return to feature filmmaking after a few years in the TV trenches. Unfolding at a party thrown by the ex-wife and new husband of a man who's starting over with a new relationship, the story starts with a simmering stew of potentially toxic ingredients and spends the next 100 minutes expertly ramping up the tension. So, basically, Thanksgiving dinner with your family, but with more sex and less mashed potatoes. Swiss Army Man. It's Daniel Radcliffe's most interesting role yet, a corpse. This quirky dramedy focuses on a shipwrecked man, played by Paul Dano, who befriends Radcliffe's dead, farting body and takes him on an epic adventure. and that's only the beginning. The film is probably one of the weirdest you'll see this year, but it's worth the chance. It has a ton of heart, and about every bit of humor you can mine from a man hanging out with a flatulent body. Critics have called Swiss Army Man everything from whimsical to deliriously fun, and it's almost an R-rated fairy tale, with fart jokes. Kubo and the Two Strings. This stop-motion fantasy adventure sadly got lost in the shuffle between Zootopia and Finding Dory, but it's still definitely among the best animated films of the year. The story follows a young boy whose quiet life is thrown upside down when he's caught up in a battle that sets him off on an epic adventure. Joined by his magical companions Monkey and Beetle, voiced by Oscar winners Charlize Theron and Matthew McConaughey, Kubo sets out to unravel the mysteries of his family history while carving out his own life. The visuals are stunning, and the story weaves together in a way that will have you laughing one minute and sobbing the next. The Edge of 17. This hilarious, touching, and at times biting coming-of-age story focuses on a high school junior whose life is turned upside down when her best friend starts dating her brother. The story weaves between her own love life and those around her. The talent is top-notch, and the script is whip-smart. This is the teen movie you probably missed but should absolutely see. If that's not enough, it also features Woody Harrelson as a sage teacher dispensing some hilarious life advice along the way.
As some of you know, I have 32 fleeting minutes of happiness during lunch, which has been eaten up again and again by the same especially badly dressed student.
The Lobster. This one proved a hit on the festival circuit, and it certainly gets points for having one of the most original premises of the year. The story follows David, played by Colin Farrell, who's dumped by his wife. If that wasn't sad enough, he lives in a world where you're turned into an animal of your choosing if you don't find a new love in 45 days. After deciding to throw in with a rebel faction, David embarks on an unorthodox romance. Director Yorgos Lanthimos uses the format as a way to poke fun at our societal norms while telling a truly compelling story along the way. And you can never lose with a co-star like John C. Reilly.
You're like a brother to me. Oh, you're my best friend in the whole world.
I don't think I'm your best friend in the whole world.
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Didn't they ask who did this? Tell them it was the Wilder People.
The what people?
This charmingly offbeat Sundance selection focuses on a young boy starting a new life with his foster family in New Zealand. With his new life in the balance, young Ricky goes on the run with his new, reluctant Uncle Heck in the New Zealand wilderness. As many reviewers have noted, the film is basically a quirky Pixar movie brought to life, telling a sweet story that can appeal to the entire family. Think Up without so many balloons. The film was a hit in New Zealand, but is more than deserving of a global audience. And in case you didn't know, the director, Taika Waititi, also helmed Thor: Ragnarok. Marvel fans should definitely check this film out. Jackie. We all know the story of John F. Kennedy, but it's a story that's almost never been told through the eyes of his wife. The film casts Natalie Portman as Jackie Kennedy and traces the immediate aftermath of JFK's assassination and the grueling work she did to hold the country together and preserve their legacy. It's a fascinating angle for a story, shining a light on a strong woman who's too often overshadowed. Critics have touted the film as a fresh window into a pivotal moment in American history, and Portman's performance has earned her some of the best reviews of her career. The fact that Portman has recovered from Star Wars or Garden State at all is a pretty huge feat.
Blah, 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 blah.
Sing Street. If you're looking for a feel-good movie, Sing Street certainly fits the bill. Directed by John Carney, this semi-musical tells the story of a 14-year-old boy in Dublin who tries to woo a mysterious girl by telling her she can star in his band's music videos. He just, doesn't actually have a band. From there, it's a love letter to anyone who ever sank into a good record or learned to play guitar to strum their favorite song. Sing Street is a story about the power of music itself and how it can change the world for the better. And the soundtrack isn't half bad either. Manchester by the Sea. Kenneth Lonergan's latest project is the story of an emotionally stunted man who returns to his hometown to raise his 16-year-old nephew. Critics have raved about the performances of stars Casey Affleck, Michelle Williams, Kyle Chandler, and Gretchen Mol, and for good reason. It uses a simple setup to tackle complex themes, delving into crippling grief while dissecting everything from the meaning of family to how those left behind deal with death. Green Room. While Green Room falls a little off the beaten path, it's still well worth checking out for anyone who likes their action movies to have a sharp set of teeth. Or anyone who enjoyed Blue Ruin, writer-director Jeremy Saulnier's 2014 debut. This time out, viewers are plunged into the hellish ordeal experienced by a punk band who attract the bloodthirsty ire of a pack of murderous neo-Nazis. Did we mention that Patrick Stewart is the homicidal owner of the club where the band is trapped? Yes, this Patrick Stewart.
M-N-O-P. I could go on all day. Q.
Terrifying. Green Room is equal parts smart and nasty, and one of the more sinfully enjoyable indie efforts of 2016. Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel.